Okay, let's really dig into this. In a world just overflowing with data, right? Information streaming at us from every single direction. How do we actually find the signal in all that noise?
Hmm.
How do we cut through the sheer volume to grasp what truly matters, for our businesses, our teams, even just our own professional growth?
Yeah,
It honestly feels like we're constantly trying to drink from a fire hose, doesn't it?
it absolutely does. And what's truly striking, I think, is how the ability to navigate this complexity.
Hmm.
It isn't just about accumulating facts.
Right.
It's really about understanding the underlying forces,
Hmm.
the human psychology involved, and the strategic choices that are shaping our reality.
Hmm.
So for you as a leader or professional listening, this means more than just, staying informed. It's about actively developing a kind of strategic intuition, a resilient mindset.
Okay.
And this raises a really important question. Are we when the sheer number of potential outcomes for any given action has just multiplied exponentially?
That's exactly our mission today. We've gathered a truly fascinating stack of sources that, together, they paint a really rich picture of the challenges, but also the opportunities facing leaders and organizations right now. We're going on a deep dive. We want to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge, the key insights from all these diverse perspectives.
Sounds great.
You'll discover why our instincts can sometimes lead us totally astray, how to foster truly effective teams, the secrets behind crafting real competitive advantage, and also the larger economic and societal forces at play.
Yeah.
Prepare for some genuine aha moments, hopefully, that will shift your perspective. So let's jump right into the heart of it, this elusive nature of prediction and risk. We often approach business and life, really, assuming we can forecast the future with some degree of certainty.
Right. We want that certainty.
We do, but our sources reveal that many aspects are inherently unpredictable, and our intuition, frankly,
Yeah.
it can be a rather terrible guide sometimes.
That's a really powerful point. And that tension, between seeking patterns and recognizing the limits of what we can genuinely predict,
Hmm.
that's a recurring theme across all these works we looked at.
Okay.
Take the stock market, for instance. Malkiel points out a fascinating, though limited, predictable pattern.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he says up to about 40% of future market returns can actually be predicted based on the initial price-to-earnings multiple, the PE multiple, of the overall market.
Okay, so break that down a bit. The PE multiple.
Right, so simply put, it's a company's share price divided by its earnings per share. And Malkiel's looking at the whole market's average PE. A lower initial market PE generally correlates with higher future returns over, say, a 10-year horizon.
Ah, okay. So low valuation now often means better returns later. Makes sense.
Exactly. So if you bought stocks when the overall market's valuation, measured by that PE, was relatively low, history suggests you'd likely see better long-term returns. It gives us a sense of potential trajectory, perhaps, but it's far from a crystal ball.
Far from it. And then, on the complete flip side of predictability, Taleb really throws a curveball with his concept of black swans.
Oh, yes. The black swan.
These are those incredibly low predictability but massive impact events that just completely upend everything, all our assumptions, and create huge shifts.
Right. Things you just don't see coming.
And he doesn't pull any punches, does he? He critiques social scientists, financial professionals for using tools that effectively exclude these possibilities from their model.
He really does.
He even goes so far as to suggest their predictive value is no better than astrology because they're designed for the known knowns, not the unknown unknowns. That's a pretty strong statement.
It's provocative, absolutely.
So does Taleb offer any, practical strategies for businesses? How do you contend with these unknown unknowns if your traditional models are so flawed? Or is it more about cultivating a different kind of organizational agility?
That's a fantastic question. And Taleb's answer, it largely points towards cultivating robustness rather than trying to predict the unpredictable.
Okay, robustness.
Yeah. His critique highlights this fundamental flaw in so many of our models. They operate under this false belief that uncertainty can be fully measured, often overlooking the potential for these truly rare, high-impact events.
Right.
So for leaders, this means moving beyond just relying on deterministic models and fostering a system that's, well, he calls it anti-fragile one that might actually benefit from shocks.
Interesting. Anti-fragile.
And this approach, it resonates deeply with the military perspective, too. Will and Babin, drawing from their Navy SEAL experience.
Extreme ownership, right.
Exactly. They emphasize that leaders must be comfortable acting decisively amid uncertainty. They just can't wait for a 100% right solution because that hesitation leads to delay, paralysis, and inability to execute.
Yeah, analysis paralysis.
Totally. Leaders have to make educated guesses based on experience, available intelligence. And this applies directly to high-stakes business decisions, where
Right.
capital, markets, careers are all on the line.
So ultimately, these sources are kind of converging on this crucial insight. True preparedness isn't about perfecting predictions. It's about cultivating a resilience mindset,
That's a great way to put it.
a continuous readiness to act decisively with imperfect information, acknowledging the limits of our models, but still seeking patterns where they genuinely exist.
Exactly. It's about making the best call you can with an incomplete picture, rather than just freezing up when things are ambiguous.
Right. But speaking of incomplete pictures and our comfort, or lack thereof, with them, that leads us straight into the illusion of validity and confirmation bias.
Ah, the cognitive traps.
Exactly. Our minds are sort of hardwired with these biases that make us overconfident, often in faulty predictions.
This is where human psychology really comes into play, creating these internal blind spots. Kahneman explains the illusion of validity beautifully.
How so?
Well, our confidence in a prediction often stems from how well an outcome matches a stereotype or a familiar pattern we recognize, rather than from actual predictive accuracy. He cites how psychologists, for example, might really trust selection interviews, despite a vast body of literature showing they're often not very good predictors of job success.
Huh. So we trust the story over the data sometimes.
Pretty much. We tend to see what we want to see, or what fits our preconceived notions, and that reinforces our confidence, even when the underlying data doesn't support it. It's like our brains are constantly trying to connect the dots, even if some of the dots aren't really there, you know?
It's almost unsettling, isn't it? That we can be so confident, yet so wrong, just because a narrative feels right.
It is.
And Taleb elaborates on this too with confirmation bias, our natural tendency to seek out evidence that confirms what we already believe,
Yeah, we all do it.
rather than looking for disconfirming evidence. He argues quite strongly that disconfirming instances are actually far more powerful in establishing truth, yet we actively avoid them.
It's much more comfortable, isn't it, to find information that says, see, I told you so.
Way more comfortable. But true insight often comes from proving ourselves wrong, or at least challenging our assumptions.
Precisely. And what's really insightful here is how our psychological comfort zones, maybe amplified by information overload and self-interest, actively construct these blind spots.
Yeah.
Rumel points out that during the 2008 financial crisis, certain widely held doctrines, like the belief in U.S. economic exceptionalism, or the Fed's total expertise in managing interest rates.
Right, those narratives.
Exactly. They essentially put up a wall, blocking the simple realization that historical patterns of financial excess were just repeating themselves.
Wow.
These were ingrained beliefs that prevented critical thinking, even when there was mounting, contradictory evidence right in front of them. It links directly to that idea that information overload can paradoxically reduce our capacity for critical thought because we just cherry pick what confirms our existing views.
Okay, so given all these biases, what's like one actionable step a leader listening right now could take to reduce their vulnerability to confirmation bias in their own team's decision-making?
That's a crucial question. I'd suggest actively instituting a devil's advocate role in key decisions.
Okay, like formally assign someone?
Yeah, someone whose explicit job is to find reasons why a plan might fail or to present alternative interpretations of the data. It forces the team to confront that disconfirming evidence head-on.
I like that. Makes it safe to challenge things.
Exactly. Because when those biases meet complex financial instruments and, frankly, unchecked ambition, the results can be truly catastrophic.
Which brings us to the real-world consequences of speculation and these blind spots.
Right.
John Brooks, in Business Adventures, recounts the Ira Haupting Co. crisis back in 1963. It was caused by massive speculation in, of all things, cottonseed and soybean oil futures by this firm called Allied Crude Vegetable Oil and Refining Co.
The salad oil scandal.
That's the one. He describes these vivid signs of public hysteria, like prices declining and volume rising during the lunch hour, a time when the market is usually quiet.
Unusual activity.
Yeah. The stock ticker even had a 52-minute delay, showing how completely overwhelmed the system was. And then there were these walk-ins at brokerage offices. People who weren't serious investors but just found entertainment in the chaos, adding to the frenzy.
Wow.
It's just a vivid illustration of how irrational exuberance or panic can quickly manifest and just spread like wildfire.
Brooks's account really underscores how a single customer's immense, reckless speculation, combined with that general atmosphere of financial excitement and maybe some regulatory blind spots,
Yeah.
how it can bring down established firms.
Yeah,
The details, like that ticker delay, the walk-ins, they paint such a clear picture of a market just losing its grip on reality.
definitely.
Putting this in the context, it's a stark reminder of the social contagion that can grip financial markets,
Mm.
where fear and greed just amplify each other.
And Lewis in The Big Short gives us an even more recent and maybe more chilling example with the subprime mortgage crisis. He illustrates how people can be totally blinded by their interests.
Mm-hmm.
He describes this Las Vegas conference where investors were just clinging to the party line, that a 5% loss rate on these subprime bonds was normal,
Despite all the signs.
despite clear mounting evidence of much, much higher defaults. He recounts one investor actually telling a Fitch Ratings analyst, hey, be the honest one, make a public statement about the true risks, only to be met with offense and resistance.
Wow.
It sounds like a collective delusion or maybe just willful ignorance fueled by the immense profits being made at the time.
What's particularly striking there is the sheer scale of that willful ignorance and the institutional resistance to uncomfortable truths.
Right.
The refusal by rating agencies to acknowledge the deteriorating quality of these bonds, even when they were directly challenged. It speaks volumes about the powerful incentives at play to just maintain the status quo, keep the gravy train running.
Keep the party going.
Exactly. And Lewis provides a chillingly specific example with OMMLT 2005-3. That was a particular pool of subprime mortgages. The combined delinquencies, foreclosures, and bankruptcies for this single pool spiked dramatically, from 15.6% to 37.7% in just a few months in 2007.
Wow, that's a massive jump.
Massive. That's a concrete, undeniable illustration of the rot at the core of the market, which so many people chose to ignore or actively deny.
These anecdotes, they really underscore the immense dangers of collective delusion, don't they? Especially when financial incentives are incredibly high and institutions fail to hold the line.
They absolutely do.
It really makes you think, how do you, as an individual or an organization, avoid becoming a victim of these prevailing but ultimately flawed narratives?
It's tough.
It requires a deliberate, almost countercultural act of questioning assumptions, constantly and actively seeking out those dissenting voices.
Okay, so moving now into the inner workings of organizations, we find that building cohesive, resilient teams is fundamentally about strong internal dynamics, clear communication, and empowering individuals.
Right.
It's a really delicate balance, actually. It requires intentional design, not just hoping for the best.
Absolutely. And Lencioni's work on team dysfunctions, it highlights the critical importance of substantial, passionate debate.
Yes, the conflict piece.
Right. He argues that a lack of debate isn't necessarily a sign of agreement or harmony. It can actually mask deeper issues within a team. Things like fear of conflict or just artificial harmony. Truly effective teams, he says, aren't afraid to mix it up, to challenge ideas vigorously, confront difficult truths. It's actually a sign of trust, not animosity.
Right, healthy conflict.
And real progress often comes from that healthy conflict. It makes me wonder, though, how practical is it for every organization to foster that level of passionate debate without it just spiraling into unproductive arguments?
That's a really valid concern. And the key, as Lencioni would likely agree, isn't just debate for debate's sake, but debate around ideas and issues, not personalities.
Okay, focus on the issue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it requires that foundation of trust, which is
Yeah.
dysfunction number one, right? And building on that human element, Lencioni also touches on the emotional impact of change.
Yeah.
Even the departure of a so-called difficult employee can provoke mourning and self-doubt among their peers.
Really? Even if they were difficult.
Apparently so. It's a powerful reminder that teams aren't just collections of individuals performing tasks. They're complex social units with real emotional ties. Leaders need to address these impacts directly, transparently, recognizing the human side of transitions.
That's a crucial distinction, and it reminds me how often we just forget the emotional wake left by organizational changes. We focus on the structure, not the people.
Precisely.
And when we talk about team dynamics, Katzenbach and Smith make a really crucial distinction between team discipline and single leader discipline.
Okay, what's the difference there?
Well, in team discipline, decisions are made by the appropriate people, meaning whoever has the best skills and experience for that specific task. And importantly, consensus isn't necessarily required for every single step.
Right, not groupthink.
Exactly. Leadership is often shared. It shifts based on expertise. They note that while teams might initially be slower getting off the ground,
The forming and storming phases.
Right. Once that discipline is mastered, they can achieve extra performance, something beyond what a single leader structure or just a sum of individual efforts can produce.
Precisely. The single leader model, it prioritizes expediency, which definitely has its place.
Sure.
But teams, by harnessing complementary skills and that shared leadership, they can unlock something more profound, more creative often.
Yeah.
And this connects directly to Willink and Babin's emphasis on commander's intent from their military background.
Back to extreme ownership.
Yeah. They stress that senior leaders must communicate to junior leaders, to frontline troops, how their specific role contributes to the big picture success.
It's not obvious.
It's often not intuitive. Leaders frequently assume their teams just understand this connection, but explicitly connecting daily operations to strategic goals. That's what empowers decentralized command.
Oh, okay.
This ensures everyone understands the why behind their what, fostering initiative, adaptability, even when conditions change rapidly on the ground.
That communication, that connection to purpose is absolutely vital then. It's not enough to just tell people what to do. You have to explain how it all fits into the larger mission.
Exactly, so they can make informed decisions independently.
Right. But beyond team dynamics, we also need to consider the human factor in performance and growth. How do individuals learn, grow, and contribute effectively within these organizational structures?
Yeah, and what's particularly striking here is how our mindset, our own internal beliefs, profoundly impact learning and resilience. Duckworth, in Grit, she really highlights the difference between praising natural talent,
Like saying, you're a natural.
exactly, versus promoting a growth mindset with phrases like, you're a learner.
Ah, subtle but different.
Very different.
Oh.
Latter frames challenges as opportunities for growth, like saying, this is hard, don't feel bad if you can't do it yet.
Oh, I like that yet.
That yet makes all the difference, right? It frames failure as a temporary state, a point on a learning curve, not some permanent limitation. This subtle shift fosters a resilient attitude that embraces learning over just relying on innate ability, and that's critical for long-term development.
That distinction is so powerful, it gives us permission to struggle,
Yeah.
basically, and to keep going.
Really does.
And on a very practical level, Drucker points out that understanding one's own learning style, whether you're primarily a reader or a listener,
Yes, reader or listener.
is perhaps the easiest to acquire self-knowledge, yet so few people actually act on
It's
it.
amazing how few.
And failing to do so can lead to non-performance, miscommunication. Imagine constantly writing these long, detailed reports for a boss who absorbs information best through spoken briefings.
Oh, total mismatch. Recipe for frustration.
It's a recipe for disaster. I once saw a project completely stall because the team lead kept sending these massive, detailed emails to a CEO who, only ever looked at bulleted summaries or just preferred a quick chat.
Yeah. It's a fundamental mismatch in communication styles.
Totally.
And it's such a simple piece of self-knowledge, but it has huge ramifications for effectiveness.
Building on that, Gabaro and Cotter delve into managing your boss.
Okay.
They emphasize the importance of adapting your communication to your boss's style. If they're primarily a listener, brief them in person first, maybe follow up with a short memo.
Right.
If they're a reader, you provide the memo first, give them time to digest, then discuss. It's about being effective in that crucial relationship by understanding their preferred mode of engagement.
Makes sense.
They also discuss adapting to different decision-making styles. Whether your boss prefers high involvement in every little detail or tends to delegate more broadly.
It's about understanding their operating system to maximize your own effectiveness, isn't it?
That's a great way to put it, yeah. Their operating system.
And speaking of effectiveness, Newport, in Deep Work, he advocates for ruthlessly identifying and culling shallow work.
The enemy of focus. Totally. This is the kind of busy work that just takes up time but doesn't contribute significantly. Things like endless email checking, administrative tasks that could maybe be automated, or constantly reacting to instant messages and notifications.
And constant interruptions.
Right. He argues that we need to actively free up time for deep efforts that ultimately matter most, which are these focused, cognitively demanding tasks that actually create new value, improve our skills, and are hard to replicate.
It's a call to prioritize focused, impactful work over the constant hum of distractions.
Exactly.
These insights, taken together, they really stress the importance of self-awareness and intentionality, not just in how we work individually, but how we interact and learn within our organizations.
Yeah.
However, as much as we strive for optimal performance, culture, while incredibly powerful, can also breed dysfunction and some really unintended consequences.
That's where it gets really interesting and often quite messy, doesn't it?
It certainly can.
McLean and Elkind's account of Enron's global finance department. It paints this picture of a bully culture. Executives apparently resented fixing other people's mistakes. They saw themselves as heroes just for meeting these aggressive earnings targets, even if it was through incredibly complex, often bewildering financial structures that basically masked underlying problems.
Wow.
It's just a culture where appearances and perceived success completely trumped ethical considerations and genuine problem solving.
And a key takeaway there is how that culture of self-interest and sort of perceived heroism bred profound internal resentment.
Yeah, you can imagine.
They detail how the unchecked compensation of certain executives, these no-shows like Ken Pye and Lou Pye and Rebecca Mark, despite leading businesses that were deeply troubled, how that infuriated the genuinely profitable traders.
Right, the people actually making money.
Exactly. Senior management tried to explain it away as founders' pay or special circumstances, but the traders rejected this. They saw it as outright viciousness and a deep lack of respect for intellectual capital and actual contribution.
Ouch.
It just demonstrates how a disconnect between rewards and actual performance can completely corrode an organization's morale and ethical fabric from the inside out.
You can just imagine the conversations in the hallways, right?
Yeah.
The resentment just festering.
Absolutely.
And Michael Lewis, in Liar's Poker, he vividly portrays the cruelty and the goofs that served as rites of initiation at Salomon Brothers back in the day on Wall Street.
Oh, yeah, the hazing culture.
Totally. New trainees were expected to endure humiliation, like that infamous prank where they pretended the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, was busting people in the cafeteria.
Oh, my God.
Just to prove their loyalty and toughness. It was a brutal way to screen for who could hack it in that high-pressure environment, a far cry from a nurturing, collaborative culture.
It's a really striking example of how deeply ingrained and often destructive these informal practices can become part of an organizational culture, shaping behavior in really powerful ways.
Yep.
And it's not just about individual cruelty or hazing. Stewart's Den of Thieves exposes Drexel Burnham Lambert's systemic compliance failures.
How so?
The person in charge of compliance reported directly to someone who was involved in the very activities being investigated.
You're kidding. That's a huge conflict of interest.
Massive. It inevitably led to cover-ups, abandoned inquiries, illustrating how these structural conflicts of interest can just render internal controls a complete mockery.
It sounds like an organization that was almost designed to fail ethically, with checks and balances fundamentally compromised from the start.
That's a stark, stark warning about the importance of truly independent oversight.
It really is.
But on the flip side, leaders can also shape culture and drive change in profoundly positive ways. We've seen some truly transformative examples, even in the face of intense pressure and established norms. Absolutely. And Vance's portrayal of Elon Musk highlights his ability to merge atoms and bits, as he puts it, creating something perhaps grander than anything Hughes or Jobs produced, by just relentlessly pushing the boundaries of engineering and software.
Right. His vision is huge.
Huge. His ambitious timelines, his intensely demanding nature, whether it's berating executives for a delayed trust structure 90 minutes before a Christmas party,
Wow.
or expressing disappointment when employees sought cash bonuses over stock options. It shows this unique, intense, almost messianic leadership style. He pushes boundaries by demanding an almost superhuman effort, aligning his personal ambition with this grand technological vision.
But intensity is certainly a double-edged sword, though, isn't it? Driving incredible innovation, but also creating immense pressure for everyone around him.
Absolutely. It's not for everyone.
Then we have Satya Nadella's approach at Microsoft, aiming to transform the company's culture by asking employees to connect their innermost passions to the company's new mission, shifting from that fixed mindset to a growth mindset internally.
A very different style.
Very different.
And he acknowledged the challenge this posed for employees whose aperture is smaller, as he put it, meaning those in more specialized or maybe distant roles who might struggle to see the bigger picture and connect their daily tasks to this grander purpose.
Right.
It was a call for a deeper, more personal connection to the company's mission.
What's fascinating there is the deliberate, almost philosophical approach Nadella took to cultural change, moving beyond just directives to inspiring a more profound sense of purpose and also psychological safety.
Yeah.
And the Blue Ocean leadership framework outlines a really pragmatic four-step process for this kind of thing.
How does that work?
It starts with seeing your leadership reality through these things called as-is leadership canvases to identify exactly where leadership is falling short.
Okay, getting honest.
Getting real. The example they give of frontline leaders to view profile, being initially tagged cut through the crap. They refined it later, of course, but it shows this really pragmatic, bottom-up approach to redefining roles and activities.
Haha, cut through the crap. I like that.
It's about getting real about what leaders are actually doing versus what they should be doing, and then building solutions from there.
These examples truly demonstrate that leadership isn't just about articulating some grand vision, right? It's also about the painstaking work of cultural alignment, managing expectations, creating environments where people can actually thrive, even amidst immense pressure.
It's a dynamic, ongoing process. Definitely not a one-time fix.
Definitely not. For you listening, think about how you might apply this. What's maybe one aspect of your team's culture you could intentionally try to shift this week? Okay, moving on to how companies actually carve out their place in the world. Let's talk about the foundations of strategic power. It's not just about having a good product, is it? It's about developing and defending specific powers in the market that create sustainable competitive advantage.
Exactly. And this is where Helmer's 7 Powers framework provides some really crucial insight. He argues that for a business to become a durable cash generator, a long-term success, it needs one or more of these specific power types.
Okay.
Without them, a business is inherently at risk, easily disrupted by competitors. He illustrates process power with Intel's early mover advantage in lithography.
Chip manufacturing.
Right. By being the first to really refine the manufacturing process for microchips, they could produce chips at a lower per-chip cost. And because Intel consistently had higher demand forecasts, they could justify moving to smaller etch widths sooner than competitors, continuously enhancing their cost advantage through learning and scale.
So it's a virtuous cycle based on their process.
Exactly. That's a powerful, hard-to-replicate advantage built directly into their operations. That's process power.
That's a fantastic example of operational excellence creating a real strategic moat around the business. And then there's network economies, which Helmer exemplifies with the early days of personal computing.
Right, the ecosystem effect.
Yeah. Consumers weren't just buying chips or PCs, they were buying the ability to run specific applications. And because key software back then, like Lotus 123 and MS-DOS, were programmed specifically for Intel processors,
All right, the standard.
it created this huge lock-in effect. Other PC makers had to use Intel-compatible chips to ensure compatibility for their customers, which gave Intel enormous leverage and just made its processors the industry standard.
It's a classic case of value derived from an entire ecosystem where each new user or compatible product just strengthens the core platform.
Definitely.
And what's fascinating here is that strategy isn't just about identifying these powers in isolation. Lofley and Martin, they present strategy as a logical flow.
Okay.
It requires answers to 7 key questions across 4 categories: the industry, the customer, your relative position, and your competitors. And they issue this crucial warning against marketing myopia.
Marketing myopia, what's that?
It's where companies become blinded by their own products and start using internal measures of success instead of focusing on true consumer needs.
Okay. Focusing inward instead of outward.
Exactly. It's a really common pitfall. For example, a company might focus obsessively on making a better drill, that's an internal product metric, when what customers truly want is a better hole, that's the consumer need, the outcome they desire.
It's so easy to fall in love with your own inventions and completely forget the market you're actually serving.
It really is.
And Rees and Trout chime in on the communication of strategy, highlighting that a company must be extremely well known before its initials. You know, like GE or IBM can be successfully used as shorthand for its brand.
Right, you need that base recognition first.
Absolutely. Without that foundational recognition, initials just don't resonate. They're kind of meaningless to most people. Guy Kawasaki also makes a compelling case for memorable mantras over those long, dull mission statements we often see.
Yeah, the ones nobody remembers.
Exactly. He contrasts Starbucks' mantra rewarding everyday moments with its much lengthier official mission statement, arguing for brevity and memorability for true effectiveness.
Makes sense.
Think about that in your own work. Can you actually boil down your team's purpose or your company's purpose into a single, compelling phrase that everyone gets?
Indeed, a short, impactful mantra is much more likely to be internalized by everyone, from the CEO right down to the frontline employee. But this raises an important question. How do you distill all that complex strategic thinking into something so simple and sticky?
Yeah, that's the art, isn't it?
It is. It's not just about what you sell, but how you communicate it, how you engage customers.
And once you have that strategic power, that clear communication, the imperative of innovation and adaptability becomes just paramount.
Absolutely.
Sustained success requires continuously evolving, often challenging your existing structures, your existing ways of doing business.
Which brings us neatly to Christensen's classic concept of the innovator's dilemma.
Right, a foundational idea.
He described how good companies often fail, not by doing anything wrong necessarily, but by instinctively trying to force new, disruptive innovations onto their existing customer base.
Even if it's not a good fit.
Even if the technology isn't a perfect fit for those current customers. IBM, for example, invented RISC chips, reduced instruction set computing, which were screamingly fast, apparently.
Okay.
But they failed trying to make these chips work in their existing mini-computer line because they made too many design compromises trying to satisfy their current high-end customers.
Trying to please everyone.
Kind of. Meanwhile, others found success with RISC in new markets, like engineering workstations, where the technology's raw speed advantage was better aligned with what those new customers needed.
Wow.
The existing customers' needs, paradoxically, often dictate the failure of a truly disruptive innovation within an incumbent firm.
It's completely counterintuitive, isn't it?
Yeah.
Being too good at what you currently do can actually blind you to new emerging opportunities.
It really can. And Hamill, Parad, and Thomas delve into this further. They discuss how core competencies, those crucial strengths that define a firm's success,
Yeah, the things you're known for.
can actually become core rigidities or competence traps.
Ooh, competence traps.
Yeah. An evolutionary perspective sees firms as repositories of routines.
Right.
That's a concept from Nelson and Winter. But these same routines, while efficient, can suppress attention and the capacity to absorb new information. They make firms less flexible, slower to innovate when the environment shifts.
So your strengths become weaknesses.
In a way, yes. It's like having a highly tuned engine designed for a specific terrain, which then really struggles when it hits a new, unexpected landscape.
That makes sense.
What's particularly striking here is that the very things that make a company efficient and successful in one era can become liabilities in the next.
Right.
And while corporate entrepreneurship can drive change, inject dynamism, is a fine line, too much entrepreneurialism without proper governance can lead to chaos or excessive risk-taking.
Like Laker Airways.
Exactly, like Later Airways, whose aggressive challenge to the established North Atlantic routes ultimately ended in bankruptcy. The balance between continuous renewal and organizational stability is absolutely key. You need structure to innovate effectively over the long haul.
So it's about harnessing that entrepreneurial spirit without letting it completely unravel the entire organization.
Precisely.
And looking at the broader landscape, Perez notes that innovations tend to cluster. They occur in these surges of development about every half-century or so.
Interesting. Not evenly spread out.
Not random, apparently. It suggests these powerful underlying processes shaping entrepreneurial opportunities, where certain technological, economic, and societal conditions kind of align to make new ideas suddenly viable and widely adopted.
Right.
Think about the advent of the internet and then mobile technology as these distinct, massive waves of innovation.
That macro pattern of innovation clustering, it reminds us that individual firm strategies exist within these larger technological and economic cycles.
Yeah.
Understanding these surges can inform when and how to innovate and how to position your company to ride the next wave, rather than being swamped by it.
Once you have that innovation, though, you need to get it to the market, which is where marketing in a saturated world comes in.
Yeah, breaking through the noise.
Breaking through all the clutter requires unique approaches that really resonate with consumers, moving beyond traditional mass marketing tactics.
And Godin, in Purple Cow, makes a really compelling argument that the boring slot is filled in almost every market.
Haha, the boring slot is filled. I like that.
Real growth, he contends, comes from products that are too something. Too expensive, too simple, too complicated for some people, but just perfect for others.
Okay, so niche appeal.
Exactly. It's about standing out, being remarkable, creating a purple cow that people want to talk about, rather than trying to appeal vaguely to everyone and becoming utterly forgettable.
It's about finding your niche and really leaning into what makes you different, even if it alienates some potential customers.
Right. And his concept of permission marketing reinforces this. It emphasizes that marketing messages need to be anticipated, relevant, and personal to actually cut through the clutter.
So not spam.
Definitely not spam. It's about building a relationship where customers want to hear from you, where they've given you permission to engage, rather than just being bombarded by unwanted, irrelevant ads.
Makes sense. Build trust first.
What's particularly striking here, though, is how this contrasts with the more traditional view. Ogilvy, on the other hand, he defends the time-tested fundamentals.
Like what?
Things like slice-of-life commercials, demonstrations, and talking heads that, as he puts it, make the cash register ring.
The old school stuff.
Yeah. He pushes back against the noisy lunatics who dismiss these techniques as obsolete, highlighting their enduring effectiveness if done well, creatively. He also mentions intensification techniques like that classic Volkswagen campaign, showing different perspectives of the product against a stark, bare background.
Oh, yeah, the Beetle ads.
Right. And the creative gamble in headlines that don't immediately mention the product, but hook the reader with intrigue first. It's a reminder that sometimes the old ways are still the best, especially if they genuinely work and are executed with creativity.
That's a great point. Fundamentals often endure for a reason, but the medium matters too, right?
Absolutely. Chouinard from Patagonia explains that while their website sales now exceed mail order, the web requires active clicking and searching.
You have to go look for it.
Right. Unlike the passive browsing of flipping through a catalog that arrives in your mailbox, he emphasizes the synergy with their physical stores and the catalogs. They help reassure customers about online quality, about the brand ethos.
So it's an ecosystem.
Exactly. It's about leveraging different channels strategically to build trust, meet customers where they are, and tell a consistent brand story rather than seeing them as competing forces.
These insights, they collectively stress that in today's incredibly crowded markets, relevance and distinctiveness are just paramount.
Couldn't agree more.
It's not just about what you sell, but how you communicate it, how you engage customers, and how you build a narrative that truly, truly cuts through. For you listening, think about your own marketing efforts. Are you a purple cow, or are you just another brown cow blending into the herd? Okay, now let's zoom way out to the macro view. The larger economic, policy, and societal forces that shape pretty much everything else. It's truly amazing how often economic realities are completely counterintuitive and how profoundly human psychology impacts markets and entire national economies.
Yeah, and what's particularly striking here is Krugman's observation about investment and the trade balance.
Okay.
He highlights this really counterintuitive principle. If multinational companies pour billions into a country to build new plants, expand operations, foreign direct investment.
Right, sounds like a good thing.
Business executives often expect to see trade surpluses as a result. More production, more exports, right?
Yeah, it makes sense on the surface.
But economists, looking at the bigger picture, actually predict large trade deficits.
Deficits, how does that work?
Well, this disparity reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of macroeconomic principles among many business leaders. Foreign investment, while bringing capital, typically leads to an increase in imports as the country builds new infrastructure, buys machinery, imports components.
Ah, okay, so you're importing stuff to build the capacity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Driving a trade deficit, at least in the short to medium term. It's a classic example of how micro-level logic doesn't always scale up neatly to macro-level outcomes.
It absolutely flips conventional wisdom right on its head.
It does.
And then we have Adam Smith, who, far from predicting eternal, ever-increasing growth in profits, he actually posited that the rate of profit tends to decline over time.
Right. Counterintuitive again for many.
Yeah. This is due to the gradual increase of capital stock in an economy and the increasing difficulty of finding profitable new investments as an economy matures. As he wrote, the diminution of profit is the natural effect of prosperity. It suggests that success itself kind of contains the seeds of future challenges, and that sustained high profits aren't the natural state of a mature, thriving economy, but maybe an anomaly or a temporary phase.
Putting that into context, it implies that investors continually need to adapt, seek new opportunities, and understand that returns might naturally compress over the long term.
Right.
This raises an important question for investors, and Marx identifies psychological forces as key sources of investment error.
Our own minds getting in the way.
Exactly. Leading to extreme views, bubbles, crashes. He emphasizes that no strategy can produce high rates of return without risk, period. And that an unskeptical belief in some kind of silver bullet to reaches without risk That ultimately leads to capital punishment,
Ouch, meaning losing your capital.
meaning significant financial loss. Our own emotional and cognitive biases are often our worst enemies when making investment decisions.
The idea of a financial silver bullet is certainly alluring, isn't it? But Marx's warning is stark and timeless.
It really is.
And on a more personal level, Kiyosaki's rule #1 for getting rich is deceptively simple. Know the difference between assets and liabilities, and buy assets.
Rich dad, poor dad.
That's the one. He notes that most people struggle financially because they do not know the difference and often acquire liabilities they think are assets.
Like what?
Like maybe a depreciating car that consumes cash flow, or a large house that requires constant maintenance without generating income, instead of investments that actively put money back in their pocket.
Right. Assets feed you, liabilities eat you.
Exactly. It's a foundational principle that so many people overlook in their quest for wealth.
That simple distinction is incredibly powerful for personal financial health. It's a basic mental model for wealth creation. But beyond individual choices, government policy and societal structures play a crucial, often underestimated role in shaping economic activity and the direction of innovation.
Absolutely. Friedman discusses the fundamental debate over legislating clear rules for monetary policy versus allowing authorities discretion.
Rules versus discretion, a classic debate.
Right. He compares it to the First Amendment, arguing that rules protect against the day-to-day whim of political authorities, providing stability and predictability. Without these clear, predefined frameworks, monetary policy can easily become a tool for short-term political maneuvering, leading to unpredictable economic cycles, eroding public trust, creating uncertainty for businesses and individuals.
And what's particularly striking here is how historical financial regulations often emerged in direct response to past instabilities. Mazzucato highlights the Glass-Steagall Act.
Separating commercial and investment banking.
Right, after the 1930s depression.
Right.
And the Bretton Woods Agreement, which imposed curbs on international capital movements to preserve fixed exchange rates after World War II.
Okay.
These were deliberate, significant policy choices aimed at stabilizing the financial system, preventing the unchecked speculation that had previously caused widespread economic damage. They show a clear historical pattern of government intervention to correct perceived market failures.
And Mazzucato goes further, doesn't she? She challenges the conventional idea of merely leveling the playing field for innovation.
She does. It's a provocative idea.
She argues that achieving specific types of innovation, like green innovation or breakthroughs in space exploration, requires actively tilting the playing field.
Tilting it. How
Through mission-oriented investments, new kinds of contracts between public and private actors, learning from big projects like the Apollo program. It's about strategic public intervention to actively guide the direction of innovation towards grand societal challenges, not just passively facilitate it and hope for the best.
And this leads to her further argument that when governments are told to constantly minimize costs and fear mistakes, which often comes from a private sector efficiency mindset applied, maybe inappropriately, to public challenges,
Right.
they diminish their own capacity. This can lead to increased failure and a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy of being unable to create value. Her critique suggests that a robust, proactive public sector is essential for driving transformative change and taking on those grand challenges that the private sector alone might not pursue due to risk or lack of immediate profit motive.
Interesting. But then there's Hayek's warning, right, about the illusion of the specialist in a planned society.
Yes, the counterpoint.
Where each specialist believes their specific aims will receive more attention under planning. But Hayek argues, planning inevitably brings out concealed conflicts between different aims, leading to unforeseen consequences, and a system that tries to do too much, perhaps inefficiently.
That's a powerful caution against over-centralization and the belief that a single plan can somehow perfectly balance all competing interests. It highlights the inherent complexity and the potential for unintended negative outcomes when you try to impose too much top-down control.
Definitely a tension there, but let's bring it back to the present and look at the future of finance and technology, because technology isn't just improving existing systems anymore, is it? It seems like it's fundamentally rebuilding them.
Indeed. King and Nesbitt differentiate between fintech and techfin.
Okay, fintech versus techfin. What's the difference?
Fintech, they say, is mostly about improving existing financial technology, think better, online banking apps, faster payment processing, incremental improvements.
Got it.
Techfin, on the other hand, aims to rebuild the financial system using technology from the ground up, often with a focus on inclusiveness and a completely new architecture. Think companies like Alibaba and Tencent in China.
Ah, so coming from outside finance.
Exactly. They're seen as a potentially greater threat to incumbent banks than traditional fintechs because they're coming from a different paradigm, reimagining the entire ecosystem, often leveraging their massive existing user bases.
That's a crucial distinction. It's not just about better tools, but potentially a completely new architecture.
Right. And they also discuss how end-to-end integration, which was once a competitive advantage for large banks,
Owning the whole process.
can now actually become a handicap. The financial services industry is seeing components increasingly outsourced to innovators with modern tech stacks.
Okay.
This leads to specialized service providers, things like banking as a service, KYC as a service, know your customer offering these highly segmented solutions. It also enables platform businesses like Amazon and Shopify to increasingly offer financial services tailored specifically to their ecosystems.
So it's a fragmentation and then a rebundling of services driven by technology and specialization.
Exactly. This trend towards specialization and outsourcing allows for greater efficiency, greater innovation at each layer of the financial stack.
Interesting.
And then, of course, there's blockchain. They describe blockchain pretty broadly as an umbrella term for distributed ledgers.
The technology behind Bitcoin, but broader.
Much broader now, yes. Providing a shared, secure, tamper-proof, and trusted electronic record of ownership. It's evolving far beyond just cryptocurrencies, becoming a potential foundational technology. It could fundamentally alter how trust, transactions, and data management are handled across numerous industries. Think supply chains, healthcare, voting.
So much potential there. This section really connects the dots, doesn't it? Between historical economic thought, policy decisions, and these cutting-edge technological shifts that are reshaping one of the world's most critical industries right now.
It's a really dynamic interplay of forces that demands constant attention, constant learning. Hashtag outro.
So what does this all mean for you listening? We've journeyed through the complexities of predicting the future, uncovered the biases lurking in our own decision-making, explored the intricate dance of team dynamics and leadership, unpacked the strategic imperative for innovation, and seen how these grand economic and societal forces shape our world. From the subtle power of PE ratios to the audacious vision of TechFin, it's clear that a deep dive approach, really looking under the surface, is crucial for understanding these interconnected realities.
And putting this into context. In an era defined by accelerating complexity and just constant flux, perhaps the most dangerous assumption we can make is that what worked yesterday will automatically work tomorrow.
Right.
We've seen how entrenched beliefs, even in the face of contradictory evidence, can lead to disaster. We've seen how even core competencies, things we're good at, can become rigidities that hold us back.
Yeah.
This raises a really important question, I think. Are we merely reacting to events as they happen? Or are we actively cultivating the dynamic capabilities, the critical thinking necessary to truly shape the future rather than just being shaped by it? Are we building systems, and maybe more importantly, mindsets, that actually embrace uncertainty and learn from disruption?
That's a powerful challenge for all of us. And maybe a final thought for you to take away. In your own work or life, where are you relying on instinct, on gut feel, when maybe deeper reflection, a more critical perspective, or actively seeking out disconfirming evidence is what's truly needed? And maybe what one deep work effort could you make this week to break through just a piece of that complexity, to move from being merely informed to becoming truly insightful?